Fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be a bumpy night.
But tell me, Eddie, is that a rabbit in your pocket or you just happy to see me?
Hello, everyone. Welcome. We are back for another top 10. And again, if you're new here, this is our personal subjective top 10 list from 1997. It does not mean that these movies necessarily themselves are cinematic classics or Oscar-worthy contenders. It's basically our own. It's like if these movies were on, we'd sit down to watch them, basically. So I had to narrow my list down from about 50 movies to 10 for this year. So there's going to be some movies not on my list that you're going to be wondering why, what the fuck. But again, I had to narrow it down to 10, and sometimes nostalgia wins out a little bit. It is what it is. But anyway, before I say hello to the chat and we get into going through our own lists, Steve, let everybody know where they can find you and all that fun stuff.
Here, twice a month.
Yep, and next week, worldwide weird I can handle by myself, and next week would be that. So
yeah, I'm exclusive on this channel almost now.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
And in case anybody's wondering, Titanic is not on my list. My heart will not go on.
Yeah, let that sink in.
Yes. So, and the only parts I cried at in that movie, because I do have a heart, I do have a soul, but the only parts I cried at in that movie were the scenes of the mother holding on her children, and the elderly couple holding on to each other as the Titanic is sinking. Those are the parts where I teared up at. I couldn't give two shits about Jack and Rose. I was like, just die already, please. But anyway, it's not on my list. Anyway, so yeah. But I had to narrow it down from about 50 to 10. And, well, I think society in general kind of made me dislike that movie. Not it's I thought it was overrated to begin with. But the fact that no matter where I fucking turned that year, it was talk about Titanic.
Yes, and that fucking song.
I was yeah, and they played My Heart Will Go On to death, and I was like, Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it is a damn good movie, and it is very well made. But it's also very long, which is why it's not on my list, because I don't rewatch it.
Yeah, it's very long. It's historically inaccurate. It's Hollywood. Don't get your history from Hollywood, but it's very long. Again, I didn't care about the romance between Jack and Rose. I like Billy Zane's character, but I didn't care about the romance between Jack and Rose.
Billy Zane's such an underrated actor.
Yeah. There is a little bit of historical accuracy because the unsinkable Molly Brown, is that her name? Like she really was, she really did exist. Like that woman did exist. She was on the Titanic. So that's part of the reason why she's called the Unsinkable. I think that was her last name. But yeah, she was played by which actress played her? Why am I blanking on her name? It's this. This actress was in Misery.
Kathy Bates.
Yeah, Kathy Bates. She's played by Kathy Bates. But that woman did actually exist. So, so it wasn't just a character that Cameron made up for that movie. That she actually did exist. Not exactly accurate, but she did exist. And they screwed up it's Ian Griffith. I think played the captain who answered the distress call, and they screwed up that whole scenario.
Bill Paxton's character too. That ended with a lawsuit.
Yeah. So, but anyway, no, this is not a Titanic. This is not a stream about Titanic or Titanic movie hate. Just it's not on our list. But anyway, thank you all for hanging out with us. It's our personal, like I said, it's our own personal list. The movies themselves might not necessarily be objectively good, or they could be even objectively bad. It's like we just enjoy watching them one way or another. But anyway, what Stieg does, even though he's at the point where he tells me just to start, is I tell him to roll the d20 just to see if on the off chance it goes his way. So
get off on winning.
Yes. No, actually, no. I'm just really curious to see if there's a point where you roll, and it goes your way.
Yeah. Well, do you want 1 to 10 or 11 to 20?
1 to 10.
7.
And yet I can't pick the winning fucking lottery numbers. Anyway. All right.
I won money today.
Oh. I need the clip of Christian Bale saying "Good for you." Anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway, so my number 10, because you gotta start 10 to 1 if you're new here. My number 10 is a decent family film. It's an odd family film. It's probably one that most of you might have heard of, but most likely didn't see. All right. It was created by 4 Chinese brothers who had never at all worked on films before, and they basically created these characters, and so forth. And it's a movie called Warriors of Virtue. Probably not a lot. I would hazard to bet not a lot of you have seen the movie. It is a decent family film, and so it's the main character is a kid, so it is very much gravitated towards the younger audience because the kid, the main character has a physical disability. I can't remember what it is, but has a physical disability where he's unable to really walk. And I will say hello to the chat. It's Friday. I need to say hello to the chat, but he's not really able to walk. He's not able to play sports as a result of it. So he's like the water boy on the sports teams. Basically, he's like he helps the teams out that way, and he has a crush on this one kid's girlfriend. Basically, so the one kid's on the team who's kind of a dick. This kid has a crush on, and through certain means, this kid is also befriended this what is the owner of his favorite restaurant, who happens to be a Chinese restaurant. Go figure. Warriors of Virtue, yes, Trey. Warriors of Virtue, and he's given a manuscript. Basically, this is gifted a manuscript, the Tao Te Ching, by the owner, and through an accident, during an initiation, he ends up. Yeah, pretty much it's kangaroo martial arts. He ends up in the land of Tao, where you have these anthropomorphic kangaroos who each one represents an element. Basically, you have these anthropomorphic kangaroos that know martial arts, and each one represents an element. So you have air, earth, fire, water, and metal. So there's 5 of them. Okay, 5 of them that represent an element, and you have this evil warlord trying to get this manuscript translated because there's something called a life spring that he needs, which will give him power. Okay, I'm not going to go too much into details about this, but at the same time, it's probably one that flew under most people's radar, and I had to include it on my list because 1, I grew up watching it, and 2, it's martial arts. It's fantasy martial arts. It's fantasy martial arts. You have these anthropomorphic kangaroos. You have to kind of suspend disbelief in a sense in regards to the plots, but at the same time, it's fantastical. So you can suspend that disbelief. And it has a message, basically. It has a message of, be yourself. Stop trying to fit in, which is what the kid is trying to do initially early on in the movie. He's trying to fit in with others instead of being true to himself. So that's again, times when movies had universal messages. And yeah, Rapture has a rewatchability quotient. All right, it's not exactly Oscar worthy or anything like that. It's not a cinematic necessarily masterpiece, but it's a very decent family film that has a good lesson in it. So, but I'm gonna say first off, I'm gonna say real fast, say hello to the chat because I realized I forgot to do that. So hello Trey, Gravy, Conroy, Mike, good to see you all. A guy in this room, hello. Rag Fear, hello. Dinner Bells, good to see you. If I missed anyone, I apologize, but I think I got everyone so far. Mr. Bentham, hello. Remember seeing in theaters, had one of the action figures. Yeah, I never had really any of the action figures, and I didn't see it in theaters. I saw it after left theaters, like rented it. But it's very interesting, very interesting movie. Like if you like martial arts, I think it's like at least a decent watch. At least like a decent watch. Give it a go. But yeah, Warriors of Virtue. So. Yes, again, I don't want to go too much into details. So I don't want to give too much of the plot away. But it's worth a watch. I think worth a watch, in my opinion. Anyway, that's my number 10.
Yeah. Well, my number 10 is probably not on a lot of people's top 10, but I had to put it in because I keep rewatching it. And I realize it's a really bad movie. But I rewatch it anyway. Anaconda.
That did not make my list, but it was on my overall list of movies I've seen, but did not make my top 10 list.
It's stupid, but it is campy as hell.
Mm-hmm.
And it's it functions okay as an adventure movie.
Mm-hmm.
And if you think of it as kind of like almost like a pulp comic in a way, then it kind of works. But yeah, the snakes look rather bad. It has some early CGI in it, which never looks good. Jennifer Lopez can't act, and John Voight is horrible in it.
I know. I've never been anyone's spirit animal, but thank you, Metal Mania. But yeah, it's one of those movies where it's like it's objectively bad, but still subjective. Like you're still able to subjectively watch it.
Yeah,
because there have been movies where it's so bad I can't even like find any subjective enjoyment in them. So
yeah, this is just so bad yet it's still kind of watchable, and it's my only really gripe with it, apart from the story being wonky, is the snake should have eaten Jennifer Lopez.
Yeah, unfortunately, it was during a time when they were trying to make society believe that Jennifer Lopez could at all act.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But yeah, guilty pleasure. So yeah, couldn't leave it out. I have a couple of those actually on my list for this year.
I believe it. Anyway, all right. You start number 9.
Yeah, my number 9 is Objectively Great. It's kind of like a rom-com drama movie. It's As Good as It Gets with Jack Nicholson and Helen Hunt and Greg Kinnear. I think all of them won an Oscar for it. Actually,
again, that did not make my list, but yeah, it was overall list. Hey, Orange Hat.
Yeah, it's basically Jack Nicholson plays a neurotic kind of writer who has all kinds of OCD and can't speak to women or people in general, and then he starts befriending this waitress who has a sick kid, and also befriends his gay neighbor. So it's basically him getting fixed as a person, and growing as a person, I guess, through the movie. Incredibly well acted. One of Jack Nicholson's best roles, I think. And Helen Hunt's underrated. I've never seen her do a bad job, and so is Greg Kinnear, to be honest. But yeah, maybe Well, I'd give it like a 9 out of 10. It's not perfect, but it's very good, great. Probably one of the best movies of the year, objectively.
Yeah, I'd say I'd give it that. I'd say like worth a watch. Worth a watch.
And it's a lot of fun too. Jack Nicholson can do comedy.
He's, I think to an extent he's batshit crazy, but he can do comedy. Because like because you can kind of see that in the Mars Attacks movie, because he played like the president. He played at least two characters in Mars Attacks.
Anger management too.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
But yeah, anyway, that was my number 9.
Mm-hmm. My number 9 is a horror movie that, so maybe not a lot of people have seen. But when people think of genies, they think of the Robin Williams performance in Disney's Aladdin. They don't think what an actual jinn is capable of. We find that out in a movie called Wishmaster.
That one's awesome.
Yes. Basically, it's an evil jinn who was trapped in a fire opal back in like 1100 something, basically in ancient times. He's trapped in a fire opal and is subsequently found, quote unquote, and released in present day when the movie takes place. And he wants to claim the soul of the woman who discovered him, basically. And in the process of him tracking this woman down, he grants wishes. He grants wishes for people, but they're not the wishes that it's not the outcomes the people expect. For example, when the jinn is released from the opal, a man is wounded, physically wounded, and in the process, and the jinn is like, I bet you wish for like relief from your pain. Spoiler alert: he kills the man. Basically, when the man wishes for relief from his pain, well, he just kills the man. So, I'm
the
saying
guy in the phone booth as well, who wishes he was at the coast with his wife, and then the guy goes, "Yeah, wish granted," and then the whole thing fills up with water.
Yeah. So it's like, so again, like people were thinking like, it kind of is like the monkey paw eventually. Like, be careful what you wish for. Be careful, like, very much, because like, this is what if you look up actual jinn lore, they are not benevolent entities.
Nope.
They are tricksters. They are malevolent, and
they're demons.
Find ways to warp your wishes. So technically, they are granting your wish, but not in the way you want them to. So, I've seen at least the first sequel. Like, I think there's like multiple sequels. I saw the first one after this. So, yeah. So there's like, I have not seen Supernatural. There's like, yeah. But like, they're like, look up jinn. They are not the genies from Aladdin. They are not the genie from Aladdin. Like, that is a Disney-fied version of the jinn. You want an idea in another live-action type movie of like what a jinn is like? One of the Sinbad movies. Which Sinbad movie? I can't remember. I'm gonna have to look it up. But one of the Sinbad films had a jinn in it. That was more accurate. This is also accurate to jinn, but in terms of like how they act, it's one of the Sinbad movies. No, it's not. It wasn't Golden Voyage. It was Sinbad. I think it was called Sinbad the Sailor, or something like that. It had like Douglas Fairbanks Jr. as Sinbad. If I remember correctly, Sabu also starred in it. And there was a Jinn. I think it was Sinbad the Sailor. But I'd have to look it up. Don't quote me on that. Yeah, jinns are not meant to be messed with. You do they will fuck it up. It was Sinbad the Sailor, so I was right. I was like, I remember that, but I can't fucking remember Kathy Bates' name. That's all. I'm weird like that. But yeah, Sinbad the Sailor. It had a Jinn in it. So. But yeah, so if you have not seen Wishmaster and you like horror movies, give the first movie and the second one. The immediate sequel to Wishmaster is actually a decent watch. Give those movies a try, basically, a chance, because again, it's taking that concept and just magnifying it. So this Jinn is he's like to the umpteenth power of malevolency when it comes to the granting of wishes. So, but anyway, yeah. So Wishmaster is my number 9. My number 8, because I start number 8, is a sequel to a movie that I think they should have been. Might be a hot take. I don't know. Should have been a one-off, but the sequel itself I had to include because I like horror movies. It was a decent sequel, and it should have ended at that, in my opinion. Scream 2, yes, Trace. Scream 2. So basically, it's literally, because the Scream came out in 1996. This came out like a year later, so it's like immediately, greenlit for a sequel. And to follow Sydney, she's graduated high school, and now she's in college. And she's trying to put the events of what happened in Woodsboro behind her. But shit starts happening again. Again, I don't want to give away the twist because there is a twist to it. Sorry. There is a twist. There is a connection, in a sense, to the first movie. But I don't want to say too much of anything because I don't want to give anything away. But like I said, it's new killings start on campus. And it seems to basically to... The pattern is... The pattern is I'm going to spoil something away because I kind of have to say it. Give an idea, what the connections are. At least one of the connections are to the first movie, and that is basically, the first couple we see killed. They're only really killed because their names match 2 of the victims' names from the first movie. Same with another character, basically. Those one connection. That was one of the motivating factors for the killer in this movie. So kind of copycatting, kind of not. So it's it's a little bit of a copycat, but not really because it's more of a connection based on names. But it's more of a connection based on names, not circumstances. All right, because one of the names goes back to Sydney's mom. She was, she wasn't killed as part of a couple. All right, that's the thing. It's copycatting based on names, not the circumstances. That's what I'm saying. Where it's not a copycat, but not really. Because if they were going by circumstances, well, then you'd have a single victim initially, and then a couple. It goes couple, then a single victim. It's not the same circumstances. It's just based on names. That's then they find out that someone is inspired by the events. Not necessarily coughing, but inspired by the events that happened in Woodsboro the year before. And basically making a name for himself or herself in the process. Don't want to give away the twist, because there is a twist. But yeah, in my opinion, I enjoyed Scream 2, but Scream should have been a one-off. In my opinion.
I have a Scream 2 mask on my wall.
That's cool.
It was part of the merchandise stuff that they did, and I actually won some money at a movie rental place. So I at a kind of like a betting machine thing, but you had to spend the money in the store. So I rented Scream 2 and got the mask.
There you go.
So it's on my wall next to my Blu-rays, and I only take it down for sex.
I have not seen 6. 5 can fuck right off. But the first movie is so it's such a it's
Landmark.
basically a complete story in the first movie. Like there's no loose ends really. They come up with a loose end essentially in the second one, but at the time when the first movie is like the story itself within the first movie, it's a complete circle of storytelling. So it did not need any sequels. But Hollywood being what fucking Hollywood is. Yeah, Spawn came out in 97 too. Hollywood being what Hollywood is, if they see a way to make money and it means a sequel, they will fucking do it. Because Scream was such a hit in 1996 that Hollywood is like immediately greenlit a sequel.
Yeah.
The third one was okay, and that's where it should have ended. The fourth one for me is like a decent what if type of kind of like a separate type of story, what if story sort of scenario.
I like 4
After
more
that-
than 3, actually.
Yeah. After that, did not fucking need any other movies. It didn't, like I said, it did not need any past the first one, but definitely should have been just a trilogy. Just a trilogy, a Scream trilogy. And like I said, 5 can fuck right off. What pissed me off the most about Scream 5, and there's a lot of shit that pissed me off about Scream 5, is when I saw 4 Wes Craven in the credits, I nearly pitched something at the screen. Because I'm like, fuck you.
Yeah.
Like, there's no way that is for Wes Craven. Because Wes Craven, that is pissing on his grave at that point. For you to dedicate that shit in his name. Fuck you. I was like, fuck you. But yeah, there's a lot that pissed me off in that movie. Anyway, that is my number 8. Scream 2.
Yeah. And my turn, I guess.
Yep. I did not watch the TV show. Just to answer the question. Yeah, here's your turn.
I did. It was okay, actually. Anyway, my number 8 is a crime thriller called L.A. Confidential.
Did not make my list, but made the overall list. Again, I had to narrow it down to 10, and I had 50 movies on my list.
Yeah. Well, it's a terrific thriller. Told from the kind of like the point of view of 3 different cops. It's basically a straight shooter cop, a sleazy one, and kind of a violent one. Played by Kevin Spacey, Guy Pearce, and Russell Crowe. They get entangled in investigating prostitution and the porn industry and murder and drugs. And then there's also an element of a strong element of corrupt police. It's got a great cast. It has the 3 I mentioned, as well as Danny DeVito and Kim Basinger. So superb movie. I think it's set in the early 50s or something. So it's very film noir kind of.
40s or 50s, I can't remember, but
yeah,
it's you can see how it's very much not very much inspired in style, not just because of the time period, but by the film noir movies.
Yeah, it it has the DNA of Chinatown.
Mhm.
Superb movie, terrific acting, kind of flawless, to be honest. It's like a Chinatown meets The Departed, I guess. But yeah, if anyone hasn't seen this one, then go watch it. It's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. Had to leave it off. I had to leave like a number of movies off like the top 10 list. I was like, I
Yeah,
like that movie. I like that movie. I like that movie. I like that movie.
yeah. This was a tough year, actually. Probably the hardest one in the '90s for me.
Yeah. So, like, there were
But
movies on the list where I was like, okay, like definitely would be on the list. But at the same time, I was like, when I was teetering, like like when I was coming up with like the 10 total, I was like back and forth with some movies. Like, like do I like take this one off? Do I add this one? Sort of situation.
yeah. Anyway, that was my number 8.
Mouse Hunt
Why
did
not?
not make it. So yeah. So you're number 7.
Yeah, it's a slasher that wouldn't have been made without Scream. I Know What You Did Last Summer.
I had to leave that off my list. I was like, I did enjoy it. There are some like scenarios where I was like, I don't buy it, but I did overall enjoy the movie.
Yeah, it's a campy slasher.
Yeah,
You know,
very much.
Starring Jennifer Love Hewitt
Hmm.
and that shit actor Freddie Prinze Jr. and
Yeah.
Buffy's in it as well. Basically, a bunch of youngsters hit someone with a car and they hide the corpse so they won't go to jail. And then some guy with a hook starts killing people, starts killing them off one by one because he knows what they did last summer.
Hmm.
That's pretty much it. Oh yeah, Trey Courtney's right. So she was in Scream 2 and this one the same year.
Yeah. So
But it's very straightforward.
well, it's a straightforward flat slasher movie. It's like they
Yeah.
rather than admit to the the crime itself because they're teenagers and they're like they don't think of the consequences of their actions. Like it's kind of like this like event happens and then it's like it jumps forward like a year or two where they
Yeah.
are, and then then they're starting to get targeted because they did not own up
They are
to
doing
the crime they committed.
they're doing a new one now. I'm not sure if it's a sequel or a remake. I'm not sure. But
Well, there's no, I don't know how it could be a sequel. It's been so long since the second one, and at the rate they're going, it's going to be like they're going to end up in the retirement home, and the title is going to be, I can't remember what you did last summer.
well, it would be more like I Know What You Did Last Century.
So it's just I don't know
Yeah.
why they're coming out with another one. It's just like
Yeah.
sequel or remake. Like it wasn't such a big film that people are just chomping at the bits for a remake or like another iteration from this franchise. Like they were decent slasher movies.
Yeah. But
I like the scary movies through through the third one. After that, I was like, they became parodies of themselves.
Yeah.
So,
But
Epic North.
yeah, this one's kind of like Anaconda, isn't it? It's very much a guilty pleasure movie.
Well, in terms of the accidental hit, no. I mean, like they would have gotten in trouble, but it would not it's like that would that would have been like the end of it. They would have to deal with the consequences that way. It was when they tried to hide the crime, which making it a hit and run. Yeah, that's an actual crime. So they did do something bad. So and yeah, hey Jono. Yeah, so yeah, they did actually do something bad. If they had just fessed up So we accidentally it's it's like this happened. I wasn't paying attention. He he came out of nowhere. Boom, they would have gotten in trouble, but it would effectively been a slap on the wrist as in comparison to what they would have faced for a hit and run, and then obviously being killed off by a man with a fishhook for a hand, essentially.
Someone should make a movie called I Know Whom You Did Last Summer.
Anyway,
that was my number 7.
Yeah. My number 7 is a movie where you actually do support the president.
Oh, that one.
Yeah, that one. You actually do support the president because, even though it's the character is played by Harrison Ford and he's a monumentally big lefty, the movie itself is really fucking badass. And with Gary Oldman playing the villain, who's the leader of the group that actually hijacks Air Force One. It's the title of the movie is Air Force One. Now, how many people quoted that when this movie came out? Get off my plane. You actually do like the president in this movie because, one, all right, he's not he's not like the proverbial limp noodle or anything like that. He actually has strength of character and so forth. Okay. And when he has the chance to escape the plane, he chooses to stay. And he helps through means, basically helps others to escape the plane. So he actually doesn't he's not selfish or anything. He actually helps those as part of his entourage and stays to defend Air Force One and fight Gary Oldman. It's Fifth Element is 1997, yes. So I love Air Force One. That's the movie that you're hating. So I loved Air Force One. So I love Gary Oldman as the villain. Gary Oldman is he is a chameleon. Yeah. In his ability to play characters. He can play anywhere from a good guy to a villain, and you love each one.
You need to watch Romeo is Bleeding.
Mm-hmm.
It's an action thriller, really dark, where he plays basically a gray character. So you could do that too.
Even if you don't buy the fact that it's Gary Oldman with a Russian accent, he can play he's such a chameleon. He goes from playing villains like this, and in Fifth Element to playing Jim Gordon in the Nolan Batman movies, and so forth. He is one he is a great, as Trey calls him, a character actor.
Did you see the one of the celebrities reads mean tweets or something?
I've seen some of them. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Gary Oldman reads one, and it said, "Yeah, Gary Oldman, your accents are shit," and he just breaks down and starts laughing and goes, "Yes, yes, yes," because they kind of are.
They kind of are, but at the same time, he's still entertaining to watch. So yeah, the accents are. It's they're not really believable. Especially when he tries to do the Russian accent in the movie I'm talking about, Air Force One. But he's so entertaining that you kind of ignore that when you're watching the movies.
Sean Connery didn't fucking bother. He played a Russian captain.
Yeah,
a submarine captain is Scottish.
Yeah. Sean Connery didn't give a shit.
Yeah. Harrison Ford did a Russian accent in a submarine movie.
Mm-hmm.
That one was bad. That was a bad accent.
So. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. He's in Call of Duty 4.
Yeah.
Like Ricardo Montalban. Yes. But anyway, yeah. So it's if you haven't there's really not much of a lot to go into as far as Air Force One goes. Basically, Harrison Ford plays a president who how do I put this? Basically, literally kicks ass on Air Force One.
It's kind of like Die Hard on Air Force One.
Pretty much.
And you know, shout out to William H Macy. He's really good in this.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, there's like good acting all around, like with the staff, with like even like basically the like the smaller roles, like each one is good all around. Anyway, so yeah, that's my number 7, Air Force One. So, but yeah, I just remember like like all like everyone quoting "Get off my plane." Okay, my start number 6. This is not the best adaptation of a comic book character, but I love the character. He's at best an anti-hero. At best. Would not call him a hero. Would not necessarily call him a villain either. Who is sent back from hell. Yes, it's Spawn. Sent back from hell. So, that is Spawn. Blade is a year later. Blade is not 1997. Like, I'm saying at best, he's an anti-hero. Because he does some questionable shit where I'm like, yeah, you're kind of bordering villain. But he's like definitely at best an anti-hero. And I had to include on my list because I love the character. Alright, because I love the character. Who is played by Michael J. White in this film. You have John Leguizamo, who's an asshat in real life, but he plays the clown character. Who's how to put it, kind of tied in a sense to Spawn in a weird way. Okay. But basically, Spawn, like Michael J. White plays Al Simmons. That's like, his what he's known for as a human. Before he dies, he arrives in hell, and basically the rulers in hell basically send him back to Earth, and his job is to basically send souls to hell. He's like an eternal servant of hell, and he's like he's gonna send souls come to Earth, and he has to and fighting in a sense in fighting crime, he is like taking souls basically, because he's like forever a servant as part of what's called a Faustian deal. So, but yeah, so like I don't want to say too much. Violator. Okay, it's like that's what like Violator. Okay, so he's kind of like, I don't want to say like, but in terms of what he has to do or what he does, in a sense, like if you know Ghost Rider, a little bit in a sense that's like what Spawn. It's Spawn.
Yeah.
I blame studios because studios have a habit of stepping in and into the editing process and fucking everything up. See, I've heard Michael J. White's interviews, and Spawn needed to be darker than it was, because he's not, like I said, he's not a hero. He does a lot of fucking questionable shit where I'm like, yeah, you're bordering on villain there. I need to go back and rewatch it. So, but I had to include Spawn. Yeah, I'm saying he's dark. I'm saying that's why I said it's at best he's an anti-hero, but he's bordering on villain and what he does. Yeah, I know why he has to do it, but at the same time I'm he makes some choices where I'm that's a line. That's a line that you're close to crossing. So, but yeah, so he basically that's how he is able to return to Earth to see his wife, as part of that Faustian deal, and as per the Faustian deal, he has he's, when I say collecting souls, I mean to send to hell. So, and at the same time, he's pissed off that his wife is remarried and shit like that. So yeah, I'm not going to go into details because I don't want to go into kind of why he gets a little pissed off. But if you have not seen Spawn, again, not the best adaptation. And again, I don't really blame the studio itself. I like blame basically the studio executives who like to step in and fuck everything up. It's worth a watch to get an idea of the character, and then also watch the Spawn cartoon. That's Spawn. And Keith David does the voice. Keith David also did the voice of Goliath in the Gargoyles cartoon. So he's been around for a while.
And Keith David's awesome.
Yeah.
He has a knack for ending up in stuff that's really entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
Probably has like a sixth sense for what people will like, or he has a really good agent.
Oh, it could be a really good agent, but then again, I think it's just also that like Keith David is so talented that even if like Mortal Kombat 11 is not considered the best in the Mortal Kombat series, but like he's very good at coming back and voicing Spawn. So he himself is like what people remember, and I love him as the voice of the Arbiter in the Halo series. He is great. So yeah, but as Spawn is my number 6.
My turn, or do you?
Yeah, you do your number 6, and then you start number 5.
Yeah. Okay. My number 6 is not really a good movie, but it's rewatchable, and I rewatched it not too long ago. Dante's Peak, which was it's a disaster movie.
Mm-hmm.
Dante's Peak erupts. All right.
Yeah.
And people burn and stuff like that. Starring Pierce Brosnan and Linda Hamilton. Linda Hamilton plays the mayor, and Pierce Brosnan plays the the volcano expert who back in the day lost his wife to during a disaster. So he's like,
I think the technical term for is a volcanologist.
Yeah, it could be.
Because I have a cousin who actually is in that field, studies volcanoes. So I think it's a volcanologist. That's what like the technical term would be.
Hmm. Or that could be someone who really likes Spock and knows the lore. And I don't know.
Nope.
And pretty good special effects. It's really straightforward. There's signs of a disaster waiting to happen, and then people don't believe the guy who's trying to warn, and then it happens, and then people die horribly, and that's it. It's very entertaining, very rewatchable. Not a good movie. It's not great. It's not doesn't have terrific writing or anything like that. But it's fun and campy, and those are the movies you tend to rewatch, isn't it?
Yeah, I say like the movies themselves aren't necessarily on our list, or not necessarily objectively great.
Yeah, it's just fun.
Yeah,
I mean, I love disaster movies. Watching tons and tons of idiots getting squashed or whatever it is.
like I had Spawn. I just talked about Spawn. It's not necessarily objectively good.
Yeah,
but I love watching it just because I love the character. Warriors of Virtue. I wouldn't say it's necessarily objectively great either, but I very much enjoy it because like I love martial arts, I love fantasy, and they kind of combine the two. in a sense,
Yeah.
was like it's a family friendly type of movie for kids growing up.
Oh, you know what? You should check out Jade Empire. It's a BioWare RPG set in ancient China, like a fictional ancient China. So you only do martial arts, you don't get weapons.
Hmm.
So it plays like KOTOR and Dragon Age and Mass Effect, kind of.
Okay, so basically it's a turn based type of game,
No,
or is that what you mean by that, or is that what you?
no, you pause the game to issue commands like in KOTOR, and then you unpause, and then it is real time, but with the option to pause.
Okay. Well, that's what I'm saying when it says like KOTOR, like when you play the original KOTOR and you play with multiple characters, it's turn based. So basically, you kind of like
Yeah,
it's like a
well,
little bit of a pause each time, but at the same time, it's like like it's like from one to the other, like you go from one to the other. So it's like,
well, you can play KOTOR real time too.
yeah, I generally like went from like more as turn based when I was playing it because I could like
Yeah,
play as the other
it's
characters.
yeah, you basically switch.
Yeah.
The Dragon Age does the same thing. But yeah, anyway, just a gaming tip for you right there.
Mhm.
But yeah, my number 6 is Dante's Peak.
All right. And you start number 5.
Yeah, also starring Pierce Brosnan. Tomorrow Never Dies.
That's on my
His,
list.
his second Bond movie, and the last of his good ones. To be
Which
fair.
is like I saw this one before I saw his first one.
Mm.
So
I watched this one in the cinema.
I
Actually,
this one I watched in cinema too.
yeah, good cinema experience. It's got Terry Hatcher in there, and Jonathan Pryce plays the villain, and the main
Mhm.
Bond girl, I guess, is Michelle Yeoh, who is
She's
probably
the Bond girl, main Bond
yeah,
girl.
probably the biggest action star in history, given the amount of action roles she's done.
Yeah, she's up there. I don't know if I say it's
Um,
like biggest, but she's up there.
yeah. Um, the villain is a news mogul or whatever you want to call it.
Oh, he's
Kind of like a Rupert Murdoch.
kind of.
He basically stages disasters and even armed conflicts and stuff, and makes sure he is the first to break the news.
Mhm.
So the movie is actually relevant today, isn't it? With the you're muted.
Sorry, he creates like the as you point out, he creates the disasters because like basically it's you see like in like scenario, and I'll talk about it because this is my number 4 basically. So it's
No.
like I'd be talking about it immediately anyway. So it's like he following a disaster he's created. You see him like actually creating the headline and talking to his henchmen about how many casualties, are there any survivors, things like that, and
Yeah.
the henchmen making sure no survivors.
And Gerard Butler as one of the submarine crew.
Mm-hmm.
It's like blink and you miss him. I think he has one line. This one manages to have a really relevant Bond one-liner to the plot because he throws one henchman into the newspaper press, and the newspapers comes out full of blood,
Mm-hmm.
and he just straightens his tie and says, "They'll print anything these days."
Yeah. So
That one was gold, and I remember I was sitting in the cinema, and a couple of seats away from me was this old Arab guy. He laughed so hard he almost shat himself. It was like rolling in the seat. It was bizarre. So yeah, but yeah, awesome Bond movie. Nothing wrong with it. Pierce Brosnan's second best, I think. A close second.
yeah, I'd say probably his second best, and one of the last few decent Bond movies. Like at least that, like that. Because Pierce Brosnan was like the last decent Bond. Then we got Daniel Craig.
Yeah, who actually plays him closer to the books, but he just the movies are just I don't know they feel like Jason Bourne.
Yeah, nope. I don't buy him as Bond. Maybe in the first movie, but following the first movie. When I say first movie, I'm talking about Casino Royale. Like maybe the first movie, but after that, nope. Yeah, the villain I would say is it's just because that's my number 4, so I'll talk about it. It's probably Jonathan Pryce. While he's a good actor, not one of the best villains, or
Yeah,
not one of the best villains. He's
yeah.
probably the weakest part of the movie.
Probably. He basically he acts really well, but he has a bad character.
Yeah. So it's where I fault more the writing and the writers who created the character, not so much Jonathan Pryce, because he's doing the best he can with what he's given. So,
yeah, and
at that point,
he actually never does a bad job.
No.
But yeah, that's my number 5.
All right. Well, my number 5 is I've brought this movie up multiple times, and if no one has watched it, I think it's worth at least a watch as a comparison to other adaptations of this fairy tale, and it's Snow White: A Tale of Terror. Probably closer in a sense, with some liberties, to the tone of the actual fairy tale itself. Because if you read these fairy tales,
they're dark as shit.
Yeah, Grimm's fairy tales and so forth. They are horror films. They are literally perfect stories for horror films. That is Disney. The fairy tales you see, the adaptations from Disney, those are very much cleaned up.
Oh hell yes!
They are very much cleaned up. Yeah, I'm thinking it's an interesting take on the fairy tale. In tone, it's a lot closer to what you would read in terms of the actual fairy tale, but it's a twist on the fairy tale itself. So, if you want an interesting spin on a fairy tale, I would suggest giving it at least one watch. Snow White: A Tale of Terror. Sigourney Weaver plays the evil queen, so she is very good in it. The 7 dwarves are more like 7 outcasts. So they're not actually dwarves. But again, it's a spin on the tales. It's not it's not like this movie passes itself off as an actual adaptation of the fairy tale. No, it's taking the fairy tale and okay, we're gonna do a little little liberty here, a little liberty here, and so forth. Little Mermaid ending is dark as shit. It is not an upper. If you read the Little Mermaid fairy tale, it's not an upper. Cinderella, when the stepsisters are trying to get their feet into the glass slipper, all right, I think one of them actually cuts her toes off so her foot could fit. It's dark as shit. Maybe at some point hold on. Be right back. I'll show you what I have, chaps.
Yeah, Mara has dark shit in her home. There is a little, last month I had Freeway on my list, which is a modern version of Little Red Riding Hood with Reese Witherspoon and Kiefer Sutherland. Worth a watch. Oh, yeah.
Maybe at some point in the reading streams, I'll read some of the actual fairy tales, so you guys get an idea of how dark this shit can be.
That's a gorgeous book, though.
One of my favorites. Is it in here? Hold on. Let me look at the Is it the Dancing Shoes? Is that a Grimm's fairy tale? Because that one is dark. I can't remember if it's in here or not. That's a dark fairy tale. Snow White is in this.
It's probably all of them, since the book is so thick, and the stories themselves aren't that long.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the title. I want to say it's the Dancing Shoes, but I'm not seeing it anyway. That one is dark. But yeah, Sleeping Beauty's in this.
You know what? When the Witcher books basically base some of the stories on old fairy tales,
Mm-hmm.
the author is actually doing it right because he's doing really grim versions of it, which is the correct versions.
So yeah, but anyway, like I said, maybe at some point, so you guys get an idea.
Yeah, that's a 10 out of 10 book, though. It looks gorgeous.
Yeah. At some point of this, probably watch party at some point of the Snow White Tale of Terror movie. Probably watch party of that at some point. No, they're not. Like I said, like if you want to make a horror movie, pick a Grimm's fairy tale story and just adapt it. Fucking horror stories right there. You want like an actual adaptation? Dark as shit. You talking about the movie with Heath Ledger and Matt Damon? You're talking about that movie? I remember thinking that was okay.
It was
Go back
fun.
and rewatch. I'd have to go back and rewatch it.
Me too, actually.
Yeah, I don't remember it that well. But right there, actual like blueprints for good horror movies. So wouldn't have to change much of anything. Anyway, that is my number 5. Snow White: A Tale of Terror.
And I know what your number 4 is.
Yeah, so I'm not going to go too much into it, basically, because we already talked about it. It's Tomorrow Never Dies. What the first Pierce Brosnan movie, James Bond movie, I had seen in theaters. I did not see the first one in theaters because at that point I was like, I wasn't really buying him necessarily as James Bond, but then the trailer piqued my interest, so I went to go see it. Well, actually, the family went to go see it, and enjoyed it. With the exception of the villain, overall enjoyed the movie.
The henchman was bad too, actually.
Yeah, I'm saying like the villains were probably the weakest parts. I liked Michelle Yeoh in it. I liked Pierce Brosnan in it. The movie, like action scenes, are very good. And Pierce Brosnan is probably one of the last best Bonds we got.
Yeah. Oh, Jaluk is asking me a question. What's the Red Riding Hood movie that I said was good? It's Freeway. I had it on my list. You need to watch that one, Maura. It's right up your alley.
At some point, I'll find time to watch it. Yeah. Well, also, it doesn't have to use a villain after Sean Bean, but just like the motivation of the villain was kind of like the weakest part of the movie. I'm not saying that the motivation had to be stellar or anything like that, but at the same time, it's like it's kind of taking Rupert Murdoch and making him a villain. That's pretty much what it was. So it wasn't exactly the best.
Maybe that's why they made the villain the way he is, so they wouldn't have Sean Bean 2.0.
Maybe.
So they went from an action-heavy villain to someone who's really shit in the fight.
Probably that, in a way, makes sense, but at the same time, it's like he was the weakest part of that movie. But yeah, so that's my number 4, Tomorrow Never Dies. So I'm not really going to go into it because we already talked about it. So your number 4.
My number 4 is it's another bad one, but I keep rewatching it. Alien Resurrection.
Did not make my list, but I know. But yeah, it's
Yeah, I kind of didn't want to put it on my list, but I've seen it 20 times, so I just had to go there, right? But yes, unnecessary sequel, really unnecessary. Good cast.
Incredibly necessary.
Yeah. Basically a kind of like a military space station thing somewhere. Gets alien eggs, and they're kidnapping people and using them as test subjects. Uh, has actually a great cast because this crew who's delivering the cargo, which is the kidnapped people that have been kidnapped during cryo sleep.
Hmm.
That the crew is the good part, and that was also the basis for Firefly, because Josh Whedon wrote the script for Alien 4, and the crew of the Betty, that's the name of the ship, are basically the blueprint for the Firefly crew.
I can see that.
Oh, it absolutely is. Josh Whedon said so.
No, I'm saying it's like like just based on because just how Joss Whedon writes, you can see the similarities with the characters. So I can say, never really got into watching Firefly, but I know enough about it. Yeah, I can see
that. The human Xeno hybrid is the dumbest thing ever, because the xenomorph is already an alien and a human hybrid. That's kind of the thing. But good cast. Ron Perlman's good in this, and that the French guy, I can't remember his name. He steals the show. He's in a wheelchair in the movie. Sigourney Weaver is kind of bad in this. Winona Ryder's good, and Brad Dourif. Brad Dourif's probably the best part. And like Trey said in the chat, they wasted Michael Wincott.
Yeah.
Who is a terrific actor.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, unnecessary sequel, fairly well made. It has some good, tension scenes and all that stuff, but it's still better than Romulus.
I still have not watched that movie, and part of me refuses to watch it.
It takes like 6 seconds for them to have a plot hole, because they're investigating the wreck of the Nostromo, which was
it was atomized basically. There's no there should be any wreckage.
Yeah, and they find the alien from Alien 1 on a meteorite or something next to the wreck. I'm like, you don't stop when you're flushed into space. You go on forever.
Yeah.
So it just conveniently stopped spinning and drifting through space next to the wreck. So yay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And get this, a pregnant lady gets face hugged.
Mm-hmm.
And then her fetus comes out looking like a half xenomorph, half engineer from Prometheus.
Okay, well, that's just fucking weird.
Yeah, because the alien embryo wouldn't even go near the uterus.
No.
It would be in the chest.
It's a chest buster. It's literally called a fucking chest buster.
Yeah, it would not get into the kid at all. And then even if it did, the baby wouldn't look like an engineer. It would look like a xenomorph.
Yeah. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's so basically they did a twist on that stupid alien human.
Well, unfortunately, I think the pregnant lady took the Prometheus juice. She wasn't face hugged. But even still, it would not get into her uterus. So how would it affect the baby?
Yeah.
I'm just saying, it's not it's how would it get to her uterus? Basically, it would bypass that shit and literally come out as waste.
Yeah, it's one of the most retarded sequels I've ever seen.
I'm just saying, I just don't see how that would work.
No, it wouldn't work. And then it grows to full monstrous size in less than a minute.
So that's what Steph showed me. All right. Yeah. That's the freakish thing that Steph showed me that basically unnerved her.
Yeah, so basically they ripped off that stupid alien baby creature from this movie.
I wouldn't say the sequel rips off the original, because there are sequels that actually just continue the story. Where this movie feels like Remember Barry's the movie.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
it's not a ripoff if you continue it,
yeah.
but
So but
yeah,
yeah.
this was yeah. Anyway, Alien Resurrection is no longer the worst.
And Ridley Scott, like George Miller, what happened to you? What happened to you guys? Seriously.
Yeah.
Anyway, you start number 3.
Yeah. My number 3 is a straight up action movie with Nicolas Cage named Con Air. Um,
Did not make my list, but I just was just watching a bit of it today.
yeah. Um, a bit like Air Force One, actually. A plane gets hijacked um, by hardened criminals. Nicolas Cage is kind of a good guy, but he was sent to jail for accidentally killing someone. And he's about to be
Yeah.
let out, and then this happens.
Yeah, I think I remember watching the movie for the first time and thinking it's like shit, you got railroaded. Like that should have been like he went to jail for a lot longer than he should have.
Yeah.
What, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But that's the plot of the movie basically.
Yeah. Dumb plot, really dumb
Yeah.
plot, but older action movies just needed a dumb plot.
Mm-hmm.
Just put the hero in conflict with the villains somehow and make it spectacular.
Mm-hmm.
John Malkovich is in it. Danny Trejo, Steve Buscemi, who steals the show, plays a serial killer who's actually kind of nice. But yeah, straight up action. Nicolas Cage, for some reason, does a southern accent. Don't know why, but extremely rewatchable, even though kind of dumb.
Yeah. And like I said, again, chat, like these movies themselves aren't necessarily objectively good, or at
No.
least they might not agree with us in terms of
Yeah.
what we put on our list. It's just that subjectively we find them entertaining.
Yeah, and if you rewatch a movie 20 times, it just has to go on the list, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Buscemi, I love Steve Buscemi in Con Air.
Yeah, he
I think
absolutely show.
my sister was telling me there's a theory people who've watched the movie that he actually wasn't a psychopath. He actually wasn't a murderer. He was just crazy, and had those crimes were pinned on him. There's a theory. I'm not saying it's it's actually the case, but I could kind of see it. I can see it the other way too. But he steals whatever scene he's in.
Yeah, really tense scene when he starts having a little picnic with the little girl.
Oh my god! When I first saw that movie, I was like, no,
Yeah.
no. Like when he starts and then you see, it looks like she's no longer there. Like he's back to the plane. And she's like, where is she? What the fuck happened? Because you see what looks like possibly something did happen.
Yeah. Oh, Dave Chappelle is in it too.
Yeah.
Gets tossed off the plane.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, had to put it on due to the, me having seen it so many times.
Yeah, I can see it. I can buy that. We are on to our number 3s, and you start this one as well.
No, this was my number 3.
Oh yeah. Oh, okay. Sorry. All right, my number 3. Keanu Reeves is not the best actor, but I very much enjoyed the plot of this movie. Mainly because of Al Pacino. And it kind of makes sense when you're when you're attorney, you're not exactly seen as a saint, shall we say. But it's the devil's advocate. Where Keanu Reeves plays this up-and-coming lawyer, talented, who is hired by a firm, who is run, in a sense, overseen, owned, whatever way you would put it, by Al Pacino's character. His name is John Milton. Now, if you've not read Paradise Lost, you would not get that illusion. Basically, it's like an allusion to Paradise Lost. And there's like allusions to Dante's Inferno as well as Faust. Faust being when you hear a Faustian deal, basically it's Faust makes a deal with the devil. So that's when you read Faust, that's what it means, or like that's what it's about. And basically Keanu Reeves' character is like who's also married. Like his wife is starting to have these disturbing visions, and he's becoming more and more aware that there's something off about his employer. And well, you probably guessed what Al Pacino's character is based on my commenting about Paradise Lost, Faust, and Dante's Inferno. So I think it like went a little bit. It's like I think it's got more hate than it deserved. It did well at the box office overall. But I think it's like because like Keanu Reeves is not the best actor, it didn't exactly get like I said, it gets a little bit more hate, I think, than it deserves. But if you've not seen it, I think it's worth a watch because
it's definitely worth it. It's
because it's again, it's like these visions are happening. It's like there's something to it. It's like there's something off about my employer. What is it about my employer? Wishmaster was is on my list. Fuck Norris. It was my number 9. So I included Wishmaster basically. So it's like literally, it's like kind of like that, but it's like it's essentially making a deal with the devil. So yeah, like. So, and when you kind of touch on religious themes, especially when it includes God and the devil, the overtly religious tend to get a little sensitive about it. Now, I'm not trying to say that as a negative or anything like that, even though I don't consider myself. I'm still a Christian, but I don't consider myself overtly religious. Religious. In terms like when I say in terms of like going to church every Sunday, I don't feel like as long as I'm like worshiping God in my own way, it's like I don't think plus like church, organized religion turned me off.
So
anyway,
basically, you don't feel like you need a lecture to be able to tell right from wrong.
Yeah, pretty much. Like I don't need a sermon to tell me. But like at the end, like when you deal with religious aspects, he kind of does raise the the hackles of the overtly basically the very traditionally religious.
Yeah, this movie did spark an outcry back in the day.
Yeah, but I like it. I like watching it. Al Pacino as who. Keanu Reeves, again, not the best actor, but I enjoyed. Despite that, I overall very much enjoyed the movie.
Keanu Reeves had a bad employer yet again, like in Dracula.
Pretty much. He goes from Dracula to the devil.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's my number 3. Well, see, it's like the thing is basically it's Hollywood's version of the devil, basically, and Hollywood typically gets under the skin of the traditionally religious in its interpretation of God and the devil and heaven and everything. And Hollywood's been like that for decades. So it's not like a recent thing necessarily.
Which is why they didn't like it when Gibson tried to do an accurate Jesus movie in Passion of the Christ.
Yeah, so.
Which is getting a sequel.
Yeah, which technically I can see, because the story does continue, but at the same time, I'm like, you kind of showed at the end of Passion of the Christ, Jesus, How do I put this? Not defeating, but basically overcoming. Just hell. And you see like him walking out of the tomb, if I remember correctly, out of the tomb in Passion of the Christ. So I'm like, you kind of see that.
Yeah. Dinner Bells is right. We had a bunch of those movies in the 90s, especially the late 90s. A lot of it had to do with the turn of the century. Because you had like a doomsday panic going on.
Oh, yeah. Have you seen Stigmata?
Yeah. It's got my name in it.
All right. What's your number 3? Or what's your number? I start number 2, right?
Yeah.
All right. My number 2. Nowhere near the book. Technically, it's an adaptation of a book, but at the same time, not. And that is Starship Troopers.
That's my number 2 as well.
All right, there you go.
We're twinsies.
Yes. So Starship Troopers. It is an adaptation because there is a book, but at the same time, it's like it's a Hollywood version in terms of adaptation. So it's like Diz. They gender swapped that character. And so, for just even an example, right? Because Dizzy was, I believe, it was a male in the book, and they gender swapped that character, played by Dina Meyer, and they kind of made it more, a little bit more comedic. Yeah, I would agree with that. A little bit more comedic because the book itself is very serious.
Diz is the best character in the movie.
Oh yeah, because basically it follows Johnny Rico, played by Casper Van Dien, who. How he would even get into Harvard with his grades, I have no fucking idea. Basically, like money talks, connections, and everything. But instead of going to college, instead of going to Harvard, he decides to enlist. And because of his grades, well, he's best suited for infantry. So he joins the infantry. And Diz, because she has a crush on him, follows suit. Carmen, Johnny's girlfriend, who breaks up with him at some point in the movie, is a pilot. She does like so well in math that she becomes a pilot. And
you know what's funny? Denise Richards, who plays the pilot. Would you believe her as an astronaut, and then later on in a Bond movie as an astrophysics?
Nope.
Thing. It's like the last person you'd cast as both.
Yeah. And Neil Patrick Harris, what's his character's name? Like basically like they are a trio of friends, and Harrison's character has psychic abilities. So he's put into intelligence, which is called games in theory in the movie. So basically like it's humans versus they're called arachnids. But they're like an alien arachnid type creatures, and it's a human versus arachnids type war, basically. No, like he doesn't really go into exactly who started the war, but at the same time, it's like it's never ending because the humans, Carl, the humans attack the arachnids attack Earth and so forth, and it's like So, well, it's called pretty much, but they call it games in theory in the movie. And it's basically they turn it into they take the plot of Starship Troopers from the book and turn it into more of an action comedy.
Yeah, and the kills are incredibly well made in this. All the gore and dismemberment and stuff like that. Really well made for a movie from '97.
Yeah, so separating it from the book, I enjoy Starship Troopers. I put it in my number 2. You put it as your number 2, so I very much enjoyed it. I have to separate it from the book. Oh, I've seen at least 1 or 2 of the sequels. They are not worth watching at all.
This
in my
movie also got a huge outcry back in the day, but that was from the conservatives who attacked the director for being anti-American,
so
even though this is kind of anti-war. Period. It's mocking war.
it's mocking war, and it's like it's not really like like mocking the American government. It's basically like like a commentary on when government has too much power.
Yeah,
So
and the soldiers being treated as meat.
yeah, so it's like it's basically it's a commentary. It's like it's not exactly a commentary on the American government. It's a commentary on government because you could easily make that argument for um, Nazism. Nazis during World War II basically treated their soldiers like basically like cannon fodder.
Yep.
Same with Stalin. So it's like it's an indictment on governments when they've achieved that much power and control to the point where it's to become a citizen, you need to serve.
Yeah.
You're not a citizen until you serve, sort of situation. So it's like that's where the indictment is. So I like conservatives. I'm libertarian. I'm gonna like say this, chat. I'm libertarian. I lean conservative. All right. I don't know. I lean that way. All right. But even I'm like, come the fuck on.
Yeah.
To conservatives, I'm like you do not help yourselves in the culture war when you complain about stupid fucking shit.
Yeah. Well, it Mass Effect, the ass shot,
Mm-hmm.
right? During the sex scene with,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's if you have a romance with Liara or something, you get to see her ass for 5 seconds. That's like a 50-hour game if you do everything.
Yeah.
And 5 seconds of an ass. Conservatives, and especially Fox News, lost their shit when that game came out.
Oh yeah, I remember.
And then fast forward 10 years, the liberals who defended it lose their shit because the Mass Effect fans wanted the ass shot to be there in the remastered version, and they were like, "No, that's sexist. You're objectifying women." Like, so it completely switched, and I think that's really fascinating that the same topic got switched completely in just 10 years.
The book is a commentary by a libertarian on the Korean War. Everyone fights, no one quits. The movie threw away the book and just tried to make an American book into a fascist mockery. Pretty much.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, like I said, regardless, I still like it. I watch it as an action comedy. I separate it from the book.
It's almost a farce, really.
Yeah. So that's how I enjoy it, but that's how I watch it. So but read the book. I suggest reading the book also. Not necessarily as a comparison to the movie, but at least like get a feel for like where the author was actually coming from.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my number 2. That was your number 2 as well. Do you want to add anything more to
Nah, just a superb supporting cast. Michael Ironside and Clancy Brown.
Oh, I love Clancy Brown in this and Michael Ironside in the movie.
Yeah, they're awesome. And it also has a little bit of a throwback to the RoboCop movies by the same director, where you get to see those really messed up ads on TV and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's all I have to add. It's incredibly rewatchable.
I think my favorite scene, or one of my favorite scenes with Clancy Brown and Starship Troopers, is when Jake Busey's character, Ace, his character's name is Ace, is questioning why they are being taught how to use a knife.
Yes.
Like, it's just point and shoot. And Brown's character throws the knife into Ace's hand, like tells him to hold his hand up against the wall. And it's like, he throws the knife into his hand and says, the enemy cannot, cannot pull the trigger if it has no hand, or something like that. So I just love that scene. And then, like, he pulls the knife out and goes, "Medic."
He just chokes out Dina Meyer too
Yeah.
with his knee.
Yep.
Yeah, it's fun movie.
Yeah. But anyway, so we're to our number one, ladies and gentlemen.
I think we have the same one.
Well, we'll see. I don't think so.
Well, I have Jurassic Park 2.
I don't have it.
Really?
I really.
Well, then I know
No.
what it is.
Okay, what do you think it is?
Fifth Element.
Nope.
What?
Want to try for a third time?
Good Will Hunting.
Nope.
G.I. Jane.
Nope.
Well, fuck. Anyway, I have Jurassic Park 2.
Yeah.
I knew Trey Courtney was going to have it as number one.
Oh, I was messaging Trey earlier, and I bet I can guess like your number one involves dinosaurs, right?
Yeah. Good sequel. It's not as good as the first one. Pete Postlethwaite steals the show as the dinosaur hunter, I think.
Mhm.
Steven Spielberg said that's the best actor he's ever worked with, but the guy refused to take main parts. He only does bit parts in movies, and he made a career out of it.
He's a character. He's another good character actor because he was also in wasn't he also in Alien 3?
Yeah, played one of the convicts. A small role there as well.
Yeah,
small role in Treasure Island. Always does a 10 out of 10, really. But basically, there's a different island with dinosaurs, Site B or whatever they call it, and
something like that.
something like that, and it escalates. Big plot hole at the end when the T-Rex escapes the ship because he's gotten into the main where the captain is on the boat, even though the head of the T-Rex wouldn't be able to fit through the door.
No, it's a massive plot hole because I'm like, how is he able to kill all the people on the ship? Because it would not have been able to fit in certain areas. Yeah.
All they had to do was have the roof ripped off. That would have fixed it.
Yeah.
But it's a sequel that was bound to happen given the success of the first one.
That and also it is actually based off a sequel Michael Crichton wrote. So it is actually based off a book. It's like the last one to be actually based off one of Michael Crichton's books because the third movie is pure Hollywood creation.
Yeah.
So.
And the Lost World is a tip of the hat to Arthur Conan Doyle, who wrote the original The Lost World, which involves there's dinosaurs in South America or whatever it was. But yeah, everyone's seen this movie. It is not too much to say,
Yeah, not too much to say. So, but it's like I said, of the sequels, like one of the decent sequels. Per the Jurassic Park movies, I did not bother really with the Jurassic World movies.
No, they're like the first one's fine, but it kind of goes into member berry territory too often, But I'd say for Jurassic Park the good stuff is 1 and 2, and then it deteriorates rather fast. And now they're doing more.
Yep, I can see that. Anyway, my number one. I'm sorry, Trey. That's what it looked like to me. I'm sorry. I tend to ruin shit for people because I can't. If something becomes glaring to me, I can't help but point it out.
Well, what was wrong with the final battle where?
Well, it's not that anything was really wrong with the final battle, but when you have the T-Rex and like Raptor look at each other, it looks like they're like two cowboys that tip their hats and then just like turn and walk off into the sunset. And like, I mentioned that, and I was like, that's what it felt like to me when I was watching that like last fight after the Indominus Rex was killed. And I mentioned that, and now Trey's like, I can't unsee it. Like that, I can't unsee it. I'm sorry, that's what it looked like to me. That's what it fucking looked like to me.
You're not wrong.
It looked like two cowboys that just, like, tipped their hats, like, like we defeated the villain, but now we're gonna walk in our separate ways. So yeah. Anyway, my number one is most likely a movie that most of you have not seen, unless you are essentially a fan of Christopher Guest. When I say Christopher Guest, I mean more along the lines of like movies like This Is Spinal Tap and so forth, mockumentaries. And I had to make this my number one because it's one of the mockumentaries that I fucking love from Christopher Guest. He's married to batshit crazy Jamie Lee Curtis, so like he's kind of off himself. But note, Waiting for Guffman.
I've never even heard of it.
It's a mockumentary. It's set in like a small town called Blaine, Missouri. All right, and basically it's their I think Blaine, like the premise is like it's Blaine's centennial. It came up on the list, so it's like when I was looking at 1997 movies because I knew for sure that I'd forget one. But it's it's like centennial, so they hire Christopher Guest's character. He plays a character called Corky St. Clair. All right, who's the theater director in Blaine, Missouri, who ostensibly claims he's married to a woman, even though you'd never see her, but he is very fucking effeminate in his portrayal. And he's tasked with overseeing the play, basically the centennial play about Blaine, Missouri. It also stars Eugene Levy, Catherine O'Hara, Fred Willard, Parker Posey. They are the primary characters, like within like the core group of his mockumentaries. They are also in Best in Show. So basically, if like you went like past Spinal Tap, Christopher Guest tends to. I think it's like one of those movies where it's like a cusp of 1996 and 1997. So when it's like whenever it depends on when the movies come out, and I think it came out late in the year. Hold on, like when it come out. It came out. It says January 1997, so it might have been like late 2006, early 1990, like late 1996, early 1997. So basically, because it looks like the official release is 1997, but it might have premiered at like a festival or something. 1996, like late 96. So whenever movies are like that early in 97 or that late in 96, it could go either way in terms of like what the year release is when you look it up.
Yeah.
But anyways, Waiting for Guffman, and like that's the premise of the movie. Basically, it's a mockumentary, so it's like you have the premise, and then you have like these characters, and will sometimes like give interviews because it's in the style of someone is making a quote unquote documentary about what's going on in Blaine, Missouri. So you have to watch it, Stieg. It's very interesting. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
Same with Best in Show. Have you seen This Is Spinal Tap?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Christopher Guest played Nigel Tufnell in Spinal Tap. All right, This Is Spinal Tap. All right. And so he came back for Waiting for Guffman, Best in Show, which brought back Michael McCann. Because Michael McCann was also in This Is Spinal Tap. And then Harry Shearer came back for A Mighty Wind, as well as Michael McKean. So basically, it's like Mighty Wind. I think it was like basically the reunion of those three. But definitely Waiting for Guffman and Best in Show. His Best in Show is basically a mockumentary about the dog. Those dog shows. And I think
I'm
it, like
kind of worried about watching comedies that you tell me to watch because I
it's a
end up not liking.
mockumentary. It's a mockumentary. So basically, it's done in kind of like serious.
Yeah, because
Think of like
every time,
Airplane. Think of Airplane, where they like play it off like acting is serious, but like the scenes themselves are comedic.
yeah,
And if you've seen This Is Spinal Tap, it's very much like that.
yeah.
So
Well,
it's not going to be that
I'll
like it's like the premise is different because premise is waiting for Guffman. The Guffman is this um representative for this like theater company. Like it's like based for Broadway, basically. So it says waiting for Guffman. Like that's what they're waiting for is like that for like when they put the play on. And Best in Show again is a mockumentary of the dog shows. They play
You
that
know
with like
what?
very deadpan type humor, basically. So it's like that type of humor.
Norway did one. I think it's from 2000. It's called "Get Ready to Be Boys Voiced."
Mm-hmm.
It's a mockumentary on boy bands, so kind of like Spinal Tap, but with boy bands.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, it's actually great. You might be able to find it on YouTube.
Like I said, like
You will-
it's like if you've seen This Is Spinal Tap,
Yeah,
yeah, I'll see if it's on like what you suggested is on YouTube. But if you've seen This Is Spinal Tap, then you might enjoy Waiting for Guffman and Best in Show. And then the ones after that are A Mighty Wind. And For Your Consideration was decent. It was basically a mockumentary of the Academy, basically, like a movie's being made it's up for an Oscar sort of situation, type of mockumentary. But there it is. Well, like I don't think he was necessarily a critic, but more to Guffman. Like he wasn't exactly a critic, but he's like more of like a representative. I thought for like one of the companies that Corky Sinclair wrote to, because he was going to come and watch the play and see if it was worth taking it to Broadway. But yeah, there it is. But anyway, that's my number one, Waiting for Guffman. So, that is our subjective 1997 list.
yeah.
And there's Trey found the Waiting for Guffman
oh.
full on YouTube, so you might be able to watch it there.
Yeah. Well, I also have the High Seas.
I think Fred Willard had a small part also in This Is Spinal Tap. Because he was one that was like constantly used for at least like most of the mockumentaries by Christopher Guest. I want to say he had a small part in This Is Spinal Tap as well. But anyway, next top 10 will be 1998.
Oh, we have to go through our list too.
Oh yeah, so you can go first.
Really?
Yeah, you can go first. The die likes Maze, but I'll let you go first this time.
Well, my number 10 was Anaconda.
Mm-hmm.
Number 9 was As Good as It Gets. Number 8 was LA Confidential. 7 was I Know What You Did Last Summer. 6 was Dante's Peak. 5 was Tomorrow Never Dies. 4 was Alien Resurrection. 3 was Con Air. 2 was Starship Troopers. And 1 was Jurassic Park 2.
All right. And my top, like my list from 10 to 1. Siege of Luke. My list is starting with number 10, Warriors of Virtue, Wishmaster, Scream 2, Air Force One, Spawn, Snow White, A Tale of Terror, Tomorrow Never Dies, The Devil's Advocate, Starship Troopers, and Waiting for Guffman. So
we basically had like 80% kind of guilty pleasure movies. Almost.
That's how it ends up sometimes, basically. So it's like where it's like
Yeah.
the movies themselves aren't objectively good, but they're fun to watch or interesting to watch. Because there are plenty of movies that came out that year that were objectively good that I'm like, you know what, but I could not say that I would actively go out and rewatch them. Basically, if they were on, maybe I would rewatch them. Like Good Will Hunting, I love Good Will Hunting, but I don't go out of my way necessarily to rewatch that movie.
Yeah,
I'll go out of my way to watch these.
None of us had Event Horizon.
Yeah, so as again, I rewatched that recently, so I'm like, I didn't want to include that because like that's a fresh watch for me. I want to like really think about this list, sort of a situation. Um, but yeah, I did include Fifth Element. That's not objectively good, but I subjectively enjoy it. I did not include that. I did not include it. L.A. Confidential. That's an objectively good movie. So there were
I hate
50 movies.
I hate Fifth Element.
I know you do, but see, like this is like 50 movies. So I'm trying to narrow this down. And I shudder to think how many are going to be on the overall list for 1998.
Heck yes, there's a lot of fun ones in '98. But when we get to the early 2000s and stuff, uh, at least 3 of the years we're going to have the same number one.
Probably.
Yeah,
but there it is. Trilogy. So, but I gotta call it here, ladies and gentlemen, so I can get some sleep. So Steve, again, let everybody know where they can find you and all that fun stuff.
Right here next week, if I'm awake, for the weird worldwide weird.
Yes.
Did I get it right?
Yes. Which I can handle by myself. Which I can handle by myself if you're asleep. Yeah, because we go into weird news, fun news, and all that basically, like dumb criminal stories and everything.
Yeah. Took me a year to learn the damn title.
Yeah, it took you how long to remember the title that you came up with for the last stream we did together, The Cringe Factory? You came up with that title and you kept calling it The Cringe Factor.
Yeah.
And your whole point of calling it Factory was because it was manufactured outrage.
Yeah. I thought that was clever.
I know, but you forgot that, and you kept calling it The Cringe Factor.
Yeah.
It was your own.
Got it.
It was your own damn title.
Yeah, but I gave it to you.
I know, but something that you came up with. You would think that you would remember that. Anyway. Yes, this is my Discord. Thank you, Trey. I do watch parties here occasionally. And so forth. Maybe like do watch parties down the road, maybe of Snow White, A Tale of Terror, and other movies that we've talked about. So, and if there are any movies that you guys want to watch, let me know. And if I can find them, we can do watch parties of them. But anyway, so tomorrow, if I do stream, it's a 50-50 chance right now. But it all depends on when I get home. So if I get home a little too late and I'm a little too tired, then no reading stream tomorrow. It would be a reading stream if I did stream tomorrow. Depending on how I feel, might do it, might not. We will see. But I'm definitely going to try to do a gaming stream Friday. I'm going to figure out what game I play Friday evenings. I'm going to do a gaming stream then. Because no stream at all Saturday. I will be with family for most of the day. And I'm not sure when I'll be getting back. Oh, you're talking about Robot Wars? That movie is so objectively bad, but so objectively fucking fun. Or subjectively fucking fun to watch. Robot Wars. Have you seen that?
No.
It is a watch.
Yeah.
It is a watch. It is I'm telling you, it is objectively bad. But in my opinion, I subjectively love it. It's just a watch. Robot Wars.
Oh, wow.
It has Harry Hamlin's wife. She marries Harry Hamlin later on. Lisa Rinna. Is that how I pronounce her name? She's in that. But it's an experience. Robot Wars. If you have not watched it, you need to watch it at least once and experience it. It is.
Is it from 93?
No, is it 93? Hold on. I hold on. I actually have the DVD somewhere. Hold on, I'll be right back.
Yeah, it is. It has Lisa Rinna in it. Yeah, Barbara Crampton is in it too. She's awesome. Yeah, I'm getting it right now. Yeah, I agree. Dumb fun is better than just dumb. You know, now nowadays, most big budget movies are just dumb. You know, which is why go back and watch older movies. Yeah, I agree, Trey. Anaconda is dumb fun, and I would rather watch that than the new Captain America thing that just looks cringe. It's kind of you know annoying how they actually waste billions uh, on these high budget movies and just make them as bland as possible. You know.
Can't find it. I know I have it somewhere.
Yeah, well, the one I found has Lisa Rinna and Barbara Crampton in it, and
Yeah.
it's like a spider robot on the cover.
Well, it's kind of like supposed to be a scorpion, but yeah.
Yeah, Scorpion.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. It's dumb fun. In my
Yeah.
opinion, dumb fun. But you need to chat, if you have not seen it, it's an experience you need to have at least once.
Yeah, I'm
Watching.
getting it now. I hope
I think it's like Buckaroo Banzai level of dumb fun.
that one I hated.
I'm just saying it's like, but
I like
I
I
still
like the
think that
Forbidden Stone though.
it's still like enjoyable. It's again like it's like one of those where it's like they actually made this movie.
Yeah,
It's like fucking fun to watch. Robot Wars. If you've not seen it, watch it.
it's like the one I had on my list for. Um, I think it was '93. American Cyborg Steel Warrior.
Mm-hmm.
That one is dumb fun. Completely rips off Terminator.
Yeah. I know what you're trying to say here, fucking Norris. Yeah, spell check gets you. But yeah,
Yeah,
but anyway,
Jason X.
But no stream again Saturday, and then Talk Nerdy to Us, unless anything changes, will be on my Nerdy Homes channel this coming Sunday. And then I'll get the Drunk St. Patty's Day one the following Sunday. So, on that note, ladies and gentlemen, have a good rest of your day or evening wherever you are in the world, and maybe we'll see you tomorrow for a reading stream. It depends on when I return home. But if not tomorrow, then definitely by Friday evening for a gaming stream on my Kick and Twitch. So good night, take care, and stay safe.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.